All right, Alexander, we haven't done a video on Liz Cheney and her terrible defeat in the elections in Wyoming. The daughter of one of the highest level neocons, Dick Cheney, responsible for the Iraq War, the WMD Iraq War, and Afghanistan. And Liz Cheney gave a speech where she accepted the defeat, but she said pretty much she'll continue to fight. She'll be sticking around, and she is like Abraham Lincoln and Ulysses S. Grant all rolled into one. A very bizarre concession speech from Liz Cheney. But my take on this is that she'll get promoted. She'll be put to good use one way or another, and they were expecting this loss anyway, so I'm sure they've already got stuff prepared for her to do in order to subvert the United States of America and keep the swamp and the deep state in power, which is really her function, as it was the function of her father.
I completely agree with every part of your analysis. I mean, I am absolutely sure that she knew from a very early, from the right first moment, that she wasn't going to win in the primary. I mean, I think that she realised that the moment she became involved in trying to organise the second impeachment against Trump, that her position in Wyoming was finished. I mean, she played a big role in that impeachment. She was the major advocate for it amongst the Republicans in the House. She didn't get much support in the House. But the moment that impeachment failed, and the moment the opinion in the Republican Party began to swing, she will have known that she was not going to get re-elected as representative for Wyoming. So, from that moment on, she's been looking to forge her new path. So she joined the January 6th committee, became, as she likes to claim, the ranking Republican on that committee, even though she's done so without the endorsement of her party. She's gained lots and lots of publicity about it. She goes into this primary. She comes out with this extraordinary speech, as you said, which is not the speech you expect from a defeated person. You know, she only mentioned Wyoming twice over the course of the speech. It was quite remarkable. I mean, once very briefly in passing, that the other person has won in Wyoming, and then at the end something, some quick ritualistic words about Wyoming, but really very little to say about Wyoming, hardly anything, but lots about Lincoln, lots about Grant, lots of comparing herself to Lincoln and Grant, that she's involved in this great civil war. Inflammatory language, by the way. I mean, talking about Trump as the enemy in that kind of way. I mean, I would say dangerous language myself, but there we are. But you can already see what's coming. She's going to have the 2024 run for the White House. Nobody, I think, takes that seriously. But there'll be the book deals, there'll be the TV channels, there's quite likely to be the TV show, which she will possibly host. There'll be the talking points, the nice positions in the NGOs, and she will be there. She will continue to be a gadfly, a neocon, because she herself is also a fervent neocon. There is no war that has happened over the last 20, 30 years that the United States has been involved in that she hasn't fervently supported. I mean, she opposed the withdrawal from Afghanistan. She supported extraordinary rendition, enhanced interrogation techniques, you name it. Any part of the neocon agenda, she was for it. So she is going to continue in all that role. She's going to write her pieces for the New York Times, for the Washington Post, for the Atlantic, for whomever, and we are going to see an awful lot more of Liz Cheney. I mean, nobody should be under any illusions about that. But in the meantime, the most vocal neocon has lost her seat in the House, or is losing her seat in the House. This is also consistent with the steady march of more populist Republicans winning primaries and likely seats. So it's increasingly looking as if you're going to have not just a big Republican win in the House in the midterms, but also a swing towards the populist wing of the Republican Party and away from the establishment neocon wing of the Republican Party. The Senate still looks less certain.
I'm going to get to that. I wanted to get to Liz Cheney. Let me get to Liz Cheney at the end. But since you're on that point, Tucker Carlson did a really interesting intro last night, a couple nights ago, and he talked exactly about that point. How the House is looking like it's going to be the big swing towards the Republicans. That looks like it's going to happen. Though there are reports polling that shows it may not be as big as expected, especially when you're looking at the money that has been raised. The Democrats are actually raising quite a lot more than the Republicans. So even the House, while it's most likely going to shift Republican, it may not be as big of an earthquake as people are expecting, but we're still early. But that's what's the donations. That's what the money, if you follow the money, that's what it looks like. The Senate, Tucker made it, he emphasized during his intro that the Senate is looking, who knows, 50-50 almost is the impression that I got listening to what he was saying and some of the numbers that he was throwing out there. And he put up interviews of Mitch McConnell, and Mitch McConnell kind of saying, you know what, if Republicans don't get the Senate, I'm paraphrasing what McConnell said, if Republicans don't get the Senate in the midterms, no big deal. You know, it's because McConnell says it's because we just don't have compelling candidates. And if we're 1 or 2 seats short, it's okay. And I thought to myself, you know, McConnell, what is better for McConnell? To lose the Senate to Democrats, of which they're all part of the Uniparty anyway, they're all buddies anyway and friends anyway, or to win the Senate but have a greater majority of populist America First candidates? That would be the ultimate nightmare for McConnell. That's definitely something he doesn't want to see. So he would prefer if they're 1 or 2 seats short and they're just all part of the same uniparty crowd. I think that would make McConnell super happy than to actually have Republicans take the Senate and have it be a Senate which may have a lot more Trump America First people.
I completely agree. Now, can I just say, first of all, briefly on the opinion polls, be very, very careful with opinion polls, because I don't think there's any dispute any longer that opinion polls in the United States have a structural tilt towards the Democrats. I mean, we saw that in the 2020 election. We saw that in the 2016 election. And I strongly suspect we're going to see it again in this coming election as well. So, yes, the Democrats are raising a lot more money, which is completely unsurprising. It doesn't mean that there isn't going to be a Republican landslide in the House. What we've seen is the money isn't everything. I believe that Liz Cheney raised something like $15 million for her race in Wyoming, which is probably, I believe, more than her opponent. And she lost by, 30 points. So money isn't everything in these things. And as I said, be a bit wary about the opinion polls. That's the first thing to say. But just consider Mitch McConnell talking about weak candidates, weak Republican candidates. He's talking down his own Republicans. He's actually saying these are weak candidates. These Republicans are weak candidates. Obviously, he doesn't want to win the Senate if that means a stronger cohort in the Senate from the, America First MAGA wing of the party. He's much more concerned with control of the Senate, Republican caucus, than he is with becoming Senate Majority Leader. And obviously, he'd be much, much more happy with the Democrats still controlling the Senate or controlling the Senate than with, as I said, a big Republican shift in the Senate as well. So I think that the mask essentially dropped. And I'm afraid it may be effective, because if your leader, which in a sense, McConnell still is. If your leader is talking down your own candidates, then of course that may have an effect in the actual elections.
Absolutely. So let's do a real quick return to Cheney. Real quick, I did a video a couple days ago, and I said that Cheney, wouldn't it be interesting if Biden like fired Blinken? I said got rid of Blinken or moved Blinken to some other position and then appointed Cheney as Secretary of State, something crazy like that. And then Sparky, I believe, in our live stream the other day, said he took it a step further. What if Biden goes? But he appoints, Biden goes, Kamala appoints Cheney as vice president, and then Kamala goes and Cheney becomes president. All of this stuff, I mean, we're obviously joking about this stuff, but maybe the Biden White House does appoint Cheney somewhere. Possible?
Yeah, it's
possible?
not absolutely possible. I think very likely. I mean, increase her profile, make her seem like a more important person than in fact she really is. Because that's one of the things we discovered about this last year, that in terms of her electoral weight, Liz Cheney doesn't have any. But the media, the establishment are trying to persuade us all that she's an important and powerful person. So come along, Biden. He can appoint Liz Cheney to some senior position, perhaps. He can fire Blinken, who's turning out to be a useless Secretary of State, appoint Liz Cheney to that position. Mitch McConnell will probably be delighted to wave her through. You have a Republican as Senate Secretary of State. After all, at times, so did FDR. Remember that? I mean, FDR also had a Republican as US Defense Secretary. So, give her some big, important role and position her in some way that she might be a significant force, or they might try to build her up into a significant force in American political life. So I wouldn't exclude that possibility. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, and it'd be very consistent with the, talk about Abraham Lincoln and Ulysses Grant and all that. I mean, it was a very weird speech. It was not like the speech of a loser. It was like the speech of somebody who expects that they're on a path to some sort of victory. Both comments about Lincoln and Grant were about, people who'd suffered setbacks. Lincoln, I think, in his senatorial career, his attempt to get into the Senate. Grant, after the first battle of the Battle of the Wilderness, when he turned his horse south instead of turning north, that they went on after this defeat, in Grant's case it wasn't really a defeat, but anyway, went on to win their great victory thereafter. By the way, I should say it's incredibly bad history in both cases, both the story of Lincoln's Senate seat and Grant's decision to move south instead of north. It's a lot more complicated and very different from the way Liz Cheney was spinning it. But I'm not going to go into the details of that in this program.
Yeah, she was spinning it in a manner of, I'll be back, and the deep state, they owe me a solid. I did them a solid favor, and I expect my reward. And she's expecting something. She's expecting something.
Well, that's exactly. I mean, the point about the primary, about Lincoln. I just say very briefly. The point about Lincoln was that he was set to win the Republican primary for the Senate seat, but in a way that would have prevented him gaining the actual seat itself. So rather than do that, he stepped down and supported a rival candidate who went on to become the winner. And as a result of that rival became an enthusiastic supporter of Lincoln and helped Lincoln on the way to the presidency. So it was actually Lincoln showing extraordinary political skill and also being incredibly conciliatory to his opponents. Liz Cheney doesn't know how to be conciliatory to anybody. I mean, her political skill is zero. I mean, what they said about, that person who said, that, you're not John Kennedy. John Kennedy was my friend. He was said to Dan Quayle. Well,
Lloyd
Liz Cheney,
Benson.
Lloyd Benson, exactly.
Lloyd
Liz
Benson,
Cheney,
and it was the debate with
Dan Quayle, was it? Dan Quayle?
Dan Quayle, yeah. Dan Quayle,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, well, Liz Cheney is certainly no Lincoln, that I can definitely tell you.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, we'll end it there, theduran.locals.com, and go to the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code. Good day. Take care.